So my dad took me to school and he knew football was starting that day and asked me, before I got out of the car, what position I was going to go out for. Naturally, I said I was going to go out for running back because quarterback was boring.
When discussions of the best quarterback in the NFL arise, you'll most likely hear about Tom Brady, Joe Montana, and Peyton Manning. Nevertheless, when we think about football's all-time greats, it is impossible not to remember John Elway's splendid career. Having a rocket arm, uncanny mobility, and an ability to make game-saving plays are why he shouldn't be left out of such conversation. But how great was John Elway actually? While most future NFL quarterbacks spent their childhoods dreaming about reaching the league, John Elway's athletic journey could have taken a different direction. Born in Port Angeles, Washington, and raised in a sports-oriented family, Elway was a multi-talented athlete and twice drafted by MLB teams. His legendary football career was founded on physical gifts, versatility, and a competitive spirit unrivaled by any other player. At Stanford University, there was little doubt about Elway's athletic potential. During his college career, he threw for 9,349 yards and a total of 77 touchdowns, setting several school records along that pathway. According to Elway, his time at Stanford was frustrating because the team could not seem to win. In spite of Elway's brilliance, Stanford never appeared in a bowl game. But to scouts and analysts, Elway had that unique combination of size, arm talent, and leadership. He was the package, a generationally talented thrower who could single-handedly elevate a franchise toward greatness. For many, the story of John Elway starts with his last NFL game, Super Bowl 33, when he won a second consecutive title and was named the game's MVP. But Elway's road from phenom to Hall of Famer was anything but inevitable. Born into a football family, his father, Jack Elway, was a legendary college coach. John couldn't help but get involved in the sport. He showed incredible talent and natural leadership from an early age on the field, becoming a two-sport star in high school. Not only was he an elite prep quarterback, but he also excelled at baseball. So much so that he was selected by the Kansas City Royals in the 1979 MLB draft after high school, and later by the New York Yankees while at Stanford. Despite how good he was at baseball, football was where Elway's destiny lay. In 1982, he finished second in the Heisman Trophy voting while throwing for 3,242 yards and 27 touchdowns in his senior season at Stanford. It was clear what kind of player he was. His talent was undeniable, and in the 1983 NFL Draft, widely considered one of the best draft classes ever, Elway became the top overall pick. However, this came with drama, as Elway refused to play for the Baltimore Colts, who had the first pick, citing concerns about their management. The Colts eventually traded him to the Denver Broncos, setting the stage for one of the most legendary careers in the sport's history. Elway arrived in Denver with sky-high expectations. Broncos fans were desperate for a franchise quarterback who could help return the team back to its former glory. Elway didn't disappoint, delivering right from the start as he showed flashes of his brilliance even in his rookie season. Though he faced the usual struggles of a young quarterback transitioning to the NFL, including a completion percentage of just 47.5% and only 7 touchdown passes to 14 interceptions, his natural talent was clear. What set Elway apart even then was his unique combination of arm strength, size, and mobility. At 6'3" and 215 pounds, Elway could make every throw imaginable, often launching the ball downfield with effortless power. He could also extend plays with his legs, rushing for 237 yards in his first season, a rarity for quarterbacks of that era. As Elway's career went on, he became known as a clutch performer that seemingly willed his team to victory when the game appeared to be at its toughest. When he retired, Elway owned the NFL record for most fourth-quarter comebacks with 34. And there was never a Broncos fan who believed the game was over if Elway had the ball in a late-game situation. There's also one game in particular that for Broncos fans defines his ability to perform under pressure better than any other. In the 1986 AFC Championship game, the Broncos faced the Cleveland Browns, and with 5 minutes and 32 seconds left on the clock, they found themselves trailing 20-13, pinned on their own 2-yard line. Elway orchestrated one of the most memorable drives in NFL history, marching the Broncos 98 yards in just 15 plays to tie the game, ultimately winning it in overtime. The drive became immortalized in NFL lore, with Elway demonstrating the calm under pressure that defined his career. The Broncos went on to lose the Super Bowl that year, but the legend of John Elway was born. By the late 1980s, Elway had emerged as one of the most dynamic quarterbacks in the league, but his legacy was still marred by an inability to win the big one. The Broncos reached the Super Bowl 3 times in 4 years, 1986, 1987, and 1989. But each time they came up short, losing by large margins. Critics questioned whether Elway could ever win the big game, even though the lopsided losses were far more reflective of the Broncos' lack of talent around him than of Elway's play. Though his critics were loud during this era, it should be remembered that Elway willed his teams to the championship on pure talent. From 1986 until 1991, Elway had one of the strongest arms in NFL history. He was capable of making throws that most quarterbacks can only dream about. More than that though, what really made him special was Elway's mobility. He wasn't just some pocket passer. He had the physicality to extend plays with his legs and make throws on the run. Despite the Super Bowl defeats, Elway's numbers during this period were impressive. From 1985 to 1989, Elway threw for an average of 3,394 yards per season with 99 touchdown passes, while also rushing for 1,466 yards and 15 touchdowns during that span. He earned Pro Bowl selections in 4 of those 5 years, cementing himself as one of the premier quarterbacks of his era. Yet the image of Elway as a great but can't win the big one quarterback persisted. As the 1990s began, Elway's career took a somewhat quieter turn. While still playing at a high level, the Broncos were no longer Super Bowl contenders, and Elway began to suffer from nagging injuries. From 1991 to 1995, Elway averaged 3,100 passing yards per season and added another 1,015 rushing yards over that span. He also earned 4 more Pro Bowl selections and threw for over 20 touchdowns in 4 of the 5 seasons. His arm strength was still elite, but Denver was struggling to find the necessary pieces around him to return to championship contention. Then came the arrival of head coach Mike Shanahan in 1995, and everything began to change. Shanahan implemented a system that maximized Elway's strengths while easing some of the burdens that had weighed on him for years. The key piece to the new puzzle was the emergence of running back Terrell Davis, who took the pressure off Elway with his dominant ground game. Together, they formed one of the most potent offensive duos in the league. The 1997 season proved to be the culmination of years of perseverance and hard work after 14 years of chasing a championship. Now armed with a potent ground attack and an improved offensive line, Elway no longer had to carry the Broncos entirely on his shoulders. Elway finally broke through. The Broncos finished the regular season with a 12-4 record, where he threw for 3,635 yards and 27 touchdowns, with Davis rushing for 1,700 yards and the Broncos defense playing at an elite level. But it was in the postseason where Elway once again elevated his play. During the 1997 AFC Championship game, Elway led the Broncos to a dominant 24-21 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, sending Denver back to the Super Bowl. This time, the narrative was different. The Broncos were considered underdogs heading into Super Bowl 32 against Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers. But Elway wasn't going to let this opportunity slip away. In one of the most memorable moments of his career, Elway scrambled on 3rd down late in the game and dove for the 1st down, helicoptering through the air after being hit by multiple defenders. The play epitomized Elway's relentless determination and toughness to finally get his ring. The Broncos would go on to win the game 31-24, giving Elway his long-awaited Super Bowl victory and silencing his critics once and for all. But Elway wasn't done. The following year, the Broncos returned to the Super Bowl, this time dominating the Atlanta Falcons 34-19 in Super Bowl 33. Elway threw for 336 yards and a touchdown, earning Super Bowl MVP honors in his final NFL game. He retired on top, becoming one of the few players to walk away from the game as a champion. Elway's retirement left a void in Denver, but his legacy was secure. He finished his career with 51,475 passing yards, 333 total touchdowns, and over 3,400 rushing yards, becoming one of only 2 quarterbacks at the time, alongside Fran Tarkenton, to pass for 50,000 yards and rush for over 3,000 yards. He retired with 148 wins, which was the most wins by a starting quarterback until that record was eventually surpassed by Peyton Manning. Beyond the raw statistics, what made John Elway truly special was his ability to perform in the most challenging moments. He was a quarterback who could win with his arm, legs, and mind. He finished his career with 6 Pro Bowl selections, an NFL MVP award in 1987, and 2 Super Bowl titles. His leadership and competitive drive were unmatched, and his ability to overcome adversity, both personal and professional, made him one of the most respected figures in NFL history. To fully appreciate Elway's greatness, it's important to consider the context of his era. Elway played in a time when quarterbacks were not protected by the rules as they are today. He was hit, often hard, and regularly, yet he missed only 10 games in his 16-year career, displaying remarkable durability. He also played in an era where passing offenses were less prolific than they are in today's game. Quarterbacks didn't have the same kind of inflated numbers as modern signal callers do, making Elway's career totals even more impressive when put in historical perspective. Elway's legacy is also deeply tied to his ability to adapt. Early in his career, he was known for his gunslinger mentality, making incredible throws on the run and breaking down defenses with his mobility. As he aged, Elway evolved into a more methodical passer, still able to make big plays, but also more willing to take what the defense gave him. His leadership was a constant throughout, and teammates often spoke of his ability to rally the team in the toughest situation. After retirement, Elway moved into the front office with the Broncos, where he easily became one of the top executives in the NFL. Then serving as the general manager and president of football operations, he pieced together a team that would eventually win Super Bowl 50 in 2016. Also led by another all-time great quarterback, Peyton Manning. His ability to evaluate talent and construct a championship-caliber roster helps further cement his legacy as one of the finest football minds in history. Few players have made the transition from the field to the front office as smoothly as Elway, and his post-playing career only enhances his legend. To stay updated with our latest content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next episode.